Good evening. My name is Imani Rupert Gordon. I'm the Executive Director for Affinity Community Services. Affinity is a social justice organization working with LGBTQ communities of color on the south side of the city. We work hard to highlight the voices and experiences of women, transgender, and gender nonconforming folks. Before we get started today, I want to introduce the people in the studio. First, we have V. Edwards, and V is, this is V's first time answering phones. V is a longtime supporter and friend of Affinity, so thank you so much for being here. And who we will be spending most of our time with is Kelly Salisbury. Kelly is the Director for Policy and Outreach for the Chicago Commission on Human Relations. Thanks so much for joining us, Kelly.
Thank you for having me, Imani.
It's a pleasure. So first, Kelly, I wanted to ask you, that's a mouthful, the Chicago Commission on Human Relations. Can you tell us a bit about what you do in the office?
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you again so much for having me on your show. And so the Chicago Commission on Human Relations is the City of Chicago's civil rights agency. We are tasked with enforcing the city's human rights and fair housing ordinances, which prohibit discrimination under 16 protected classes, which include race, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, source of income, disability, military status, parental status, and all of the others. I won't go through all 16. So our ordinances prohibit discrimination under those 16 protected classes in the areas of housing, employment, and public accommodations. And so our work primarily involves two aspects. The first aspect is investigating and adjudicating discrimination complaints in housing, employment, and public accommodations under the 16 classes I mentioned. And then the other part of our work is more of the proactive education, community-focused work, which includes providing education workshops in schools to parents and teachers and staff, as well as in nonprofit organizations and community-focused organizations like the Boys and Girls Clubs and the Y. And we also mediate community tensions in neighborhoods where either individuals or groups are experiencing conflict. And we offer assistance to victims of hate crimes. So those are the two components of our work.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
So I want to ask, when you say that the commission investigates and adjudicates complaints, what does that mean exactly, and what might it look like if I were to file a complaint? What would that process look like for me, and what would the time frame look like?
So if a person finds that they've been discriminated against in public accommodations, housing, and employment under any of the protected classes, that person can file a complaint with the commission. And our complaint forms are available on our website at cityofchicago.org/human relations. And those complaints can be sent in, can be mailed or faxed. And complaints can also be filed in person in our offices, which are located at 740 North Sedgwick, right off Superior Street, and we're located on the 4th floor. So if a person decides to file a complaint with the commission, that complaint is assigned to an investigator. An investigator asks all of the necessary information of the person filing the complaint, which is called the complainant, gathers all the necessary information. Number one, when the alleged act occurred. It has to occur within 90 days of the person filing the complaint. The act has to occur in the city of Chicago. And so all of the information, what happened, and all of the necessary information to proceed. And the investigator also contacts the respondent, which is the person the complaint is filed against, the person or parties that the complaint is filed against. And so the investigator gathers all that information from the other side and makes a preliminary determination to see whether or not there is substantial evidence of whether or not an act of discrimination occurred. And so then they create a report. That report and their preliminary determination is then shared with the review committee. And the review committee at the commission reviews the case, either agrees or disagrees. It's very rare that the committee disagrees because the investigators are incredibly thorough. And if it's decided that there is substantial evidence, then the other part is whether or not parties want to settle the case. And if they decide on a financial settlement, then the case is referred to mediation. And so a mediator is then given the case. If the complainant decides to pursue it in civil court, then it's assigned to a hearing officer And so then it's adjudicated by a hearing officer, and then a determination is made. When the hearing officer makes that determination is then reviewed by the Board of Commissioners of the Commission on Human Relations.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that's the process. And in general, because it's often asked, well, how long does it take for a case to come to a close? And, each case is different. And it just depends. But a very general timeline is anywhere from 8 to 14 months, with some cases taking less time and some cases maybe taking a little more time.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you spoke about this a little bit, but what could be the benefit of going through this process? Because it could be really difficult for someone who's experienced discrimination. What could be a benefit from, what's a possible outcome?
Well, it's when you have been discriminated against, I mean, there's really nothing that can make up for that. But at the same time, perhaps a benefit is, number one, there's a resource and a recourse available potentially for people who have had their civil rights violated and who have been discriminated against. And there are perhaps some things that can be done, such as some recourse in terms of, number one, someone being able to redress what has happened, someone being able to receive, to be compensated for the time and the money that it took, to even have to file a complaint, time off work, perhaps some of the expenses incurred in seeking legal counsel and getting an attorney. And damages, hardship, emotional damages, and those kinds of things, as well as an opportunity for people to see, and whether they're individuals or organizations or businesses, that the city takes discrimination very seriously. The Commission takes very seriously all discrimination complaints that we receive. And so I think the benefit is that we have a department that actually pursues these matters and takes them very seriously.
Thank you. Thank you. So, it can be really, difficult if you're someone who has experienced discrimination, and sometimes you can experience some embarrassment even talking about that, and feeling some fault, especially when we're talking about marginalized identities. And I was just wondering if you had any strategies for how to make this process a bit more bearable for anyone going through it.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, because there are some people who are just, they have a lot on their plate. They, are stressed out, they feel violated, and those kinds of things. So something that the staff does, whether it's the investigator staff or the staff in the intergroup relations team at the Commission, is we do our best to make people feel as comfortable as possible. We respect every single person that comes through our doors, that every person who talks to us by phone, every person who emails us with an inquiry or with an issue that they need our assistance in trying to resolve. So we do our best, just in terms of our interaction, to respect people and to honor whatever it is that they're experiencing. Something that can come in handy sometimes is, when people have, for example, experience acts of violence or need certain resources for the complaint they're filing. Let's say, for example, they may need some counseling services, some translation services, or referrals for organizations that provide pro bono legal services. We have resource lists that we share with people.
Okay.
And in terms of our work that we do with people who have been targeted in terms of violence, some of the services we provide are accompanying them to court, helping to arrange transportation, walking them through the process of what they can expect, and those kinds of things. So we try to do those kinds of things. We do those kinds of things.
Gotcha.
Yeah, try to make it just a little bit easier and a little bit more accessible for people to access the services that the Commission provides.
That's really great. Thanks so much for saying that and for doing that. That does make a difference. I wanted to ask, what about something that maybe might come up that's not maybe an obvious form of discrimination to everyone? So if we could just maybe give you an example.
Sure.
So what if there was someone who was looking to rent an apartment and was interacting with the landlord, things seemed like they were going okay, you had conversations about credit history, about your rental history. Everything seems to be okay. And then maybe you didn't disclose to this person that you're transgender. And you think that maybe during the background check that the landlord had discovered that you are transgender. And now they're not returning your phone calls.
Right.
So it certainly feels like and looks like discrimination from your perspective, but you're not confident that everyone will see it that way. And I was just wondering, how do you, is your office able to help in a situation like that?
Yes, our office could potentially be a resource. And so I'm glad that you raised this question, because the fact of the matter is that discrimination is not always easy to prove. As a matter of fact, sometimes it can be very challenging to prove. But that does not mean that it's always impossible. So in the hypothetical that you raised, if that person, in this case a transgender person, found that they might have been discriminated against, and the landlord did not call them back regarding the apartment they're inquiring about, this person could file a complaint at the commission, and the investigator would pursue it with due diligence, get all of the required information, and let's say, and also reach out to the landlord, the respondent, and just say, as an FYI, there has been a complaint filed against you. This is the information we received. The investigator would ask the landlord to verify the information received, as well as to give their side of the story. And let's say, for example, the landlord said, well, no, I didn't return her calls, but it's not because she's transgender. It's because she just does not have, she didn't meet the credit threshold that I require, that I would like my renters, my residents to meet. Then it could be fair game for an investigator at the commission to say, okay, so we need the credit history information and all of the financial information you ask all of your applicants. We would like you to provide that information for those applications you accepted, as well as those applications you rejected. And so with that comparative information, that can sometimes be very helpful in determining discrepancies, as well as determining if there are double standards, or determining whether or not it looks like this is a case of discrimination. So I just want to say that although discrimination cases are not cut and dry, it can be very tricky and very challenging to prove sometimes. There are ways to sort of unearth information and to try to see what's happening underneath the surface.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It also looks like we have a caller. V, could you put them through?
Good evening, ladies. I called and I was asking, do your department deal with the City College of Chicago? And I was told yes. It had been my experience, when you make a complaint about one department and you expect another department of the City of Chicago to look into it, it's all the same team. And when I find out there's the rules, people can enforce the rules, overlook the rules, they ignore the rules. And when I came to you guys' department and nothing was done, and I had to wind up going to the U.S. Department of Education, and then when I did gather agree, I'm just going to be very brief, when I did gather agreement, a draft by the U.S. Department of Education, guess what? The City of Chicago violated that agreement, not just once, 2, 3 times, when I had to wind up going to federal court. And guess what? Even though I'm not in the city colleges no more, I still receive retaliation. And I went to your Inspector General, John Gilchrist, and guess what? He don't do nothing. It's just like dealing with the Office of Police Professional Standards. And they look the other way.
Well, first, sir, I do want to thank you for your call, and I'm also sorry about the hardship that you are experiencing.
I didn't want, plus the fact I am a person with a disability, I'm legally blind.
Okay. I want to say that, number one, I'm really sorry for the hardship that you're experiencing. What I would be interested in speaking with you offline to get more of the information and details. I'm
just going to be real quick. I got facts and evidence. The problem is we got people running around different parts of different departments, city, Chicago, like they're the untouchable, when rules don't apply to them.
So
Well, I tell you what, I called back, leave my information. You say your name is Cheryl?
my name is Kelly, sir.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
That's
I'll
okay.
leave my information, but like I said, I deal with facts. And the type of facts I have, it didn't do me no good. I can have Jesus Christ come down on a lightning bolt and testify on my behalf, and guess what? It didn't do me no good. And like I said, we got people like the untouchables running around the city of Chicago with nothing to be done to them. Well, I will leave my information with the operator. I'll call right back.
Yes, thank you, sir. And I would like to just say, just to clarify, that in terms of our jurisdiction, it's the act has to have occurred within the city of Chicago. When someone files a complaint, it has to have occurred within 90 days, and our jurisdiction isn't other departments of the city of Chicago. So I just also want to put that out there in case there are other viewers who are wondering. So that's our jurisdiction. But I do really appreciate the caller's response, and I really hope that he can receive some relief soon.
Great, thank you. So I wanted to ask, you talked about another something else that your office provides is diversity and inclusion trainings and workshops.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, so what do those look like? And what if you were someone who thought that your place of employment could really benefit from one of these trainings? How could they contact you? Is that something that you'd be willing to do?
Oh, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, we have conducted workshops in a number of places, in colleges and universities, as well as for staff in schools and nonprofit organizations. Some of the workshops that the intergroup relations team at the Chicago Commission on Human Relations has provided have been requested by employees who are experiencing conflict with each other. And who need for their teams to actually have more respect and understanding amongst each other, because their tensions and conflict actually are spilling over into the workplace and in the work that they do.
Gotcha.
And so we have done that before, and so that is free of charge, the workshops that we provide, and we've done that before, and yes, so that's definitely something that we can do.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, too, how do you file a complaint with the commission? And are there any stipulations? Is there an age requirement, or is there anything else that someone would have to know?
Yeah, so you have to fill out a complaint, and our complaint forms are available online on our website. The Chicago Commission on Human Relations website is on the City of Chicago's website. The address is cityofchicago.org/human relations.
Okay.
A complaint can also be filed in person at our office, which is located at 740 North Sedgwick Street, which is off Sedgwick and Superior. We're on the 4th floor. And so you can also file a complaint in person. And our email is cchr@cityofchicago.org, and our phone number is 312-744-4111. So those are the ways that you can reach us to make an inquiry or to learn more about how to file a complaint and those kinds of things. Our offices are open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. For those individuals who are interested in filing a complaint in person, we recommend that they come no later than 3 p.m. because the intake process is about 2 hours. The investigators are thorough, want to make sure that there's enough time to get all of the information, to hear whatever information you want to share with us and those kinds of things. So that's how you can file a complaint and how to reach us and where we are. In terms of stipulations, someone has to be 18 years of age or older, so you have to be an adult legally. And if someone, however, let's say for example there's an adult who's interested in filing a complaint on behalf of a minor, that person can if they are a parent or legal guardian.
Okay.
So those are the only stipulations.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So before we run out of time, I did want to ask about this new initiative, the Trust Collective. And I know that Affinity is part of this, and I am a big proponent of what you're doing, but I was hoping that you could share a bit more about what it is and how you see it helping the LGBTQ community, and other marginalized identities as well.
Oh, absolutely. I'm more than happy to. So I am very excited about the Trust Collective. I'm thrilled that Affinity Community Services, and you in particular, are on board, are a member. So the Trust Collective is a very, very new collective of about 25 individuals and organizations from Latino, LGBTQ, Muslim, and people of color communities that sort of emerged in response to a series of community-focused meetings and discussions in the wake of the shooting of the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, which was an LGBTQ nightclub and gathering space. The shooting happened on Latin night and claimed the lives of 49 people, most of whom were Latino. And so there were several community response meetings that took place throughout the country, and we had some that took place in Chicago. And at this particular meeting, there were several different organizations represented, and people from Muslim, interfaith, Latino, LGBTQ communities. And the commission was asked, if we would be interested in convening a group of individuals from these different communities and organizations that serve these communities, which are often targeted for acts of violence, and just to come together in conversation and, number one, see, do we want to work together? If so, what does that look like? Is there a way that we can work together to sort of build bridges between and among and across our respective communities as well as organizations, to share resources and to work with other people and communities in Chicago on these issues of violence while centering the voices and perspectives of LGBTQ, Latino, Muslim, and people of color. And so we have only met 3 times. And so, like I said, we're new. We had our first meeting in early August, or either late July, early August. But we've covered a lot of ground. We have a mission statement, and we have a vision statement. And our mission statement, is to bridge, respect, and support these communities that we're centering. And we want to engage people in dialogue, break down barriers, challenge stereotypes. And so we are actually planning a series of different events and gatherings, cultural gatherings, panel and community discussions, town halls, etc., to do just that. So it's exciting work. We're still concretizing some things and flushing it out. We want to be flexible, but at the same time be very clear about the voices and the perspectives that we're centering in the community. So it's really exciting. And do you think the audience wants to know what TRUST stands for? It's an acronym, because there's someone on the collective who loves acronyms.
I do think they want to know what it stands for.
Okay, so it stands for Transforming, Respecting, Unifying, Striving, and Teaching.
That's beautiful.
Yes, and our vision is to honor our differences to build a more and unified future, a better and unified future. So I'm really excited about all the work that we're doing together and will continue to do together in Chicago.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be part of this initiative. I think it's going to be really great, a wonderful way for a lot of people to get involved and make sure that we're working to protect the most marginalized among us. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm really also thrilled with how quickly everything sort of came together. Sometimes these take a really long time.
Oh, absolutely.
But this one really did just get off. So
It got off the ground. I think that's also a testament to the will that people had to actually really want to do something, something constructive, something meaningful, and something powerful. And not just say in our silos or respective corners. And I think that also shows sometimes we're afraid to do things because if we don't have all the planning time in the world and to do something perfect, we can let perfect be the enemy of the good. But sometimes it's good just to come together and just decide, what are we going to do? Can we do it? And if you need to sort of change directions as you go, to do that as opposed to just sitting still. So.
No, definitely. I think the commission's doing a great job with this, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's our time.
Wonderful.
Could you just one more time give your website and any email address to get in touch with
Absolutely.
you?
So again, we're the Chicago Commission on Human Relations at the City of Chicago. We are here to serve you. We have a very committed staff that is very committed to doing this work. I'm honored to work with them. And you can reach us at 312-744-4111. If you'd like to send us an email with any inquiries you have, you can email us at cchr@cityofchicago.org. Again, that's cchr@cityofchicago.org. And you can also check us out on our website, not only to file a discrimination complaint, but actually to learn about the different work that we do and the services and the programs that we have available. And our website is cityofchicago.org/human relations.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate having you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Yeah, of course. So Affinity is having our open house on October 11th from 6 to 8. It's on National Coming Out Day. We'll have a National Coming Out activity. If you want to come out and celebrate our new space with us, definitely feel free to come by from 6 to 8 on October 11th. And Affinity, again, is a social justice organization working with LGBTQ communities of color on the south side of the city. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. So it looks like there's a caller.
Yes, good afternoon.
I'm sorry?
So how are you? All right.
Hello.
Okay, listen, beloved, so this is my question. Was there or has there been some set up meeting for the affirmative affinity group to begin to have some discussions? And was there going to be a discussion set up about the relationships between brothers and sisters, men and women?
So it sounds like you're asking if there's going to be discussions about relationships between men and women. So at Affinity, we do pride ourselves on working with intersections of identity. A lot of our community and constituents are LGBTQ identified, and I think a lot of times we're talking about same gender loving couples, but we do very frequently talk about transgender couples as well. So I think that's something that we will continue to talk about in the future. So thanks so much for calling. So that looks like it is our time now. Again, thank you so much, Kelly, for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Amani.
It's a pleasure. All right, take care.